So in today's video we're just going to have an experiment with the vortex effect in resin. Let's go! We are back. We're going to have a little experiment today, trying to create a vortex marble with resin. Now I'm going to be using UV resin for this. I've played around with this in the past, and it's with the magnification of resin and different things you can kind of do, but I saw this video on TikTok quite some time ago and I've been playing around with different ways of doing it. Now there is a channel that did a bigger version of this as a paperweight. Let me just confirm the name of the channel. It was Resin, and they kind of helped me a little bit with this idea because I was stuck. What I'll do is I'll also link one of the glass vortex videos that I've watched recently on YouTube to try and show you how the process is done. Now what they do to begin with is create a kind of like a cone shape with the glass, and then they draw the design on that, and then they make the lens to magnify through that cone. You'll see as I go along anyway. I'm probably going to get some bubbles in this. This is the first time trying it with this method. I've tried it with cabochons and had some really good pieces, but I wanted to try it with this cone method. So what we need to do first is make a cone. This is just sticky back plastic. So what I need to do is, I'm not going to be too precise with this. It is just a play around. So what I need to do is create a cone that I can pour my UV resin into, and the cone needs to be able to fit inside this small sphere mould. This has to be done in a kind of a couple of different ways. So we need the diameter to be roughly halfway, but also fill the inside diameter of the mould. So again, I've not practiced this. I could get it extremely wrong. So I'm just changing it around until I think roughly where it's going to fit. And then I'm just going to sticky tape that join, and then we'll carry on. So there mine is. There is mine. Just held together with some sticky tape. I'm just resting that inside that pyramid mould. And I'm just going to add a small amount to begin with, just to seal that tip so that it doesn't leak through the mould, and just to get out any small air bubble that could be stuck. And then I'm just going to quickly blast that with some UV just to seal that in. And once you're happy that that has sealed, you want to do this layer by layer, because you don't want it to be too deep that the UV resin doesn't cure properly. I've had to just restart my video because that happened to me. I went to take it out of the plastic and it leaked. So again, just pop any bubbles. You don't want any bubbles in there. And just repeat until it's at the right height for the diameter of your sphere mould. Well, hopefully that is cured. I've had to do this a couple of times now. You have to love experimenting. I've not been lucky because I wasn't curing it between the layers enough. So I didn't realise my phone had cut out. So what I was saying was that I wasn't curing it enough between the layers. So when it comes to taking it out of the sticky back plastic, it drew in bubbles. So I've taken it out and I've just flipped it upside down onto a clean mould, and I'm just giving that another minute cure just to make sure it's definitely sealed. And what we're left with is a slightly out of shape cone, but I can just trim that bit off. Well, hopefully that will now fit inside roughly halfway, in our sphere mould. So I'm just using my cuticle tool just to trim that sharp edge off. Just be careful. It really is tough. You could sand it down if you wanted to. Doesn't matter if it's not perfect. So you just need to make sure that it's very clean on the front. And again, we're just going to put that face down onto a clean mould and just apply a little bit of pressure. So now we need to draw in the details that are going to be blown up. You'll see as we go. So this is the part where it got really tricky for me when I tried to do this before. I was kind of doing it in reverse. So say this was the sphere, a sphere shape. What I was trying to do is get the spiral shape inside, but with resin it just wants to sink. So the details weren't showing out very well. So we're going to draw them on the back. So all I've done is I've just poured some UV resin into 2 mixing cups, and I'm just going to mix in probably some pigment paste, and we're going to go with the neons. You could do this with dyes, whatever you want, you don't need much. And then just mix those in. Now comes the fiddly part. I'm going to use my handheld torch for this, if it wants to work. And I'm just going to draw on a spiral and cure it as I'm going. So I'm just turning the mould and then just drawing that spiral onto the sphere. So I'm not giving it time to run down the resin. Use any colours you want. Right, I'm going to finish this off. And then I'm just going to go around again with my pink. I'm going to lay that on top of the green because the green is already forming that barrier to prevent the pink from falling down. And then just to give it a bit more of a cure, just pop it under the lamp. And all I'm doing now is just repeating the process on top of the pink with the green. And we're just going to cover the whole piece. So once that has cured, we are then left with this. Doesn't look like much at the moment, but we're just going to make this a bit more opaque now. Again, we can just trim off these edges. But this is another experiment I did a while ago. I know there's something stuck in the middle, but yeah, you can kind of see where this is going. That will act as a lens, but obviously there's air between the 2 pieces, so it's very distorted. So we kind of want to trick the eye. So now we're just going to back that just to make it a bit more opaque. So for this, I'm just going to do it with a bit of white mica powder. I didn't want to go for a black in case it drowned out the colours. And just mix that in. And the same as before, I'm just going to evenly coat the back of this bit by bit so it doesn't run down. I don't want to just pour it on. going to be hidden anyway. Most of this you won't be able to see unless you look at the back of the marble. But again, it's an experiment. You might have lots of different ideas for this. Right, let's continue off camera. And just give that a cure. So again, it's a bit out of shape. Now comes the bit that I've not really thought about. So if I get that in there that way up, it's not really going to look right, because these never cure fully flat. So I kind of need to get it in upside down inside there with resin in there without getting bubbles. I'm sure there's a much easier way of doing this. It's going to be a fight to get it in there, and it's going to be messy if I get the resin in there first. Or is it? Time to contemplate. And I think my best bet is to go in sideways, maybe. It is an experiment anyway. There we have it. So hopefully I can now get the UV resin down the back and down the front. I'm just hoping it's not too much, that it's not going to cure. But at this point I could change to 2-part, but I don't like waiting. So I've just filled up the front and then filled up the back. And I just need to check around now for any bubbles. I'm not so worried about the back, it's more the front that I'm worried about. It's a little bit out of shape, but I'm not worried. I just want to see if it works. Just topping that up. As always, massive shout out to my channel members. Thank you very much for the support, and to anyone who's bought me a coffee or a super thanks. Right, I know it's going to be out of shape. I'm just really worried that this isn't going to cure fully, and that there might be some bubbles that I can't see, but it's too late for that now. I'm just going to keep rotating this under my lamp. Hopefully I'm not going to demold a mess. Okay, I've given that a good few minutes, probably about 5 to 7 minutes. Just keep rotating it, and this is probably going to be the most nerve-wracking demold I have ever done, because working with UV resin, when it comes to demolding something, if it isn't cured properly, it's just going to take in lots of bubbles. So I've just got some isopropanol in this bottle. I really am hoping that it's not going to bubble up. Just need to prise this mould just slightly so I can squeeze some of that alcohol inside. Probably not the best tool to use. So I'm just going to squirt some of this into the mould and just work that around, all around, just to make it a bit easier to pop out. Please don't bubble. As always, give the video a thumbs up. It's got to be at least a thumbs up for effort. Just don't want the mould to tear either. Drop me a comment. I want to scale this down and simplify this to wearable jewellery. If you want that, let me know in the comments. And if you haven't subbed, hit that button for me. This is really fiddly. Maybe I should use the mould release spray instead. The struggles are real. Come on. Is it bonded? Don't worry, this is painful for me as well. Right. Just when you think you've got it. Okay. Wow, it's out. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. We've got this notch at the top. But did it work? We've got it. Let me give that a clean up. So I've just added a blob of UV resin on the top, and I'm just giving it, see if a glaze coat will help. I think the colours I used were too opaque, too transparent. It's not really showing through enough. We'll see what happens once I give this a cure. I think I'm going to have to either quit or give this back a layer of black just to solidify it a bit more. So this is turning into one of those projects that I thought would be a little bit easier than what it is. I've had to give the back a good few coats in black mica powder, and I've had to cover the front a couple of times. It is quite messy. I really am looking forward to simplifying this though, because I know I can make this work. I could even make this one look really pretty if I wanted to wire wrap it and hide some of that yucky backing, and this top area I could wrap around and hide. But as a first experiment with the cone, I am quite impressed. Oh, and he just goes and ruins it even more. Let's just give that a few more minutes. So I mean, I'm not going to play around with this anymore, but you can see the effect is there. Again, it is really messy, and the colours aren't really showing through as much as I wanted to. I think the UV resin is playing a part in that. It's not as crystal clear as 2-part. So yeah, again, I'm sorry if it's a lengthy one and a little bit all over the place, but it was an experiment. I wanted to get the concept right, so we can only get better from this really. But you can see that vortex effect really nicely. Right, anyway. Dan, stick to your day job. I'll see you for the next one. Bye for now.